Sis and tell. Sis and tell. A whole lot of talk about a whole lot of nothing. Sis and tell. Amanda to stand up and Alison's on TV. When they hop on the phone, yeah, you know it's the place you wanna be. Sis and tell.
Hey, Allie.
Hi, man. What's going on?
I've just been going through pillowcases.
Through
right?
pillowcases? Are you going trick-or-treating?
Totally normal to have 50 pillowcases, right?
So
Totally.
many pillowcases. What about,
You-
I have so many king pillowcases because when I buy a set of king sheets, it comes with king pillowcases, but I don't have, I mean, most of my pillowcases are standard, or most of my pillows are standard. Who has king pillows?
So, do you want to know why I have so many pillowcases? Because if I were you, I'd be like, why do you have
So many pillowcases?
Because Aaron has a bulk buying problem where if he can get a good deal on something, he gets excited and buys a lot of it. And he usually gets the good deal because he can buy it in bulk because he has a history pretending like he is a retail outlet. He pretended we were somewhere and he liked the sheets. So he looked up the company, called them, pretended like we were running a bed and breakfast, and then ordered enough sheets accordingly. And this box came of all these sheets. And the worst is like the company doesn't make fitted sheets. So it was just all flat sheets. Yeah.
Okay, wait. Let's back up. Was he pretending like you're saying in his head he was pretending you ran a B&B, or he literally had to lie to the distributor and say, I run a bed and breakfast in order to qualify for the sheets?
Correct. He pretended. This was not the first time or the only. He pretended one time we were running a spa and he ordered, there's this really nice like lotion and soap company. And so he ordered that in bulk, like these gorgeous bars of soap that you would give as gifts. But we had like 50 bars of soap, 50 things, like so much. They even sent us like the testers. It had stickers on it, said testers. Then he really liked these sunglasses, and he didn't lie to this company. He just said, okay, your sunglasses are $25 a pop. How many do I need to buy to get them at $10?
Come on.
So he bought like 25 pairs of sunglasses.
Then what did he do with them? I don't understand. What does he do with all that stuff?
Oh my God, help me. Look, I understand toilet paper because we go through so much toilet paper.
You are the people that have been hoarding the toilet paper.
No, we don't. We're not. I'm just getting like the giant thing from Costco. I'd only get one of those, and that's a lot of toilet paper.
I don't know, we ran through it pretty fast.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's like a 24 rolls of toilet paper, and we go through that in like 2 weeks. God, we're lactose intolerant over here, and we're still drinking milk. So, as I say, Jews are tolerant people unless it comes to lactose.
Right.
So we drink too much milk. I've been making ice cream. You know, I'm on an ice cream making binge, and anyway, I'm like, why can't he just like pretend like we're
So
a
what are you
bed
going to do
and
with all those
breakfast,
pillowcases?
and we need. They've been around for like 15 years. So I told Aaron I was getting rid of all those sheets that he got 15 years ago, because now they've got like things turn yellow after a while. It's all white sheets, so it's just gross. We don't need all that stuff. It's got stains, you know.
Well, but I feel like there's got to be some video that you can pull up that shows how to repurpose old pillowcases to make them into something functional. Right? Like you throw them around a broom, it turns it into a mop. You put it around, I don't know. I mean, I'm making this up.
You're like mistaking me for a Pinterest mom. Do I seriously look like I'm going to go repurpose a bed sheet? That's not happening. Maybe if we could have a toga party, but we can't have parties. If we could have a toga party, I'd be like, hey, you don't have to BYOT because I got your toga right here.
So, you know, in high school, that's one of the few things that everybody in my grade owned was a real toga. Do you know why?
Because of Animal House?
No, because we used to go to Latin convention. And the culmination of Latin convention was a toga party. Of
Were you
course.
wearing anything under your toga?
Yeah, I'm sure I was wearing a bra and underwear, but not like
That's
maybe
it?
shorts and a t-shirt. Look, that's besides the point. So there's two parts to this story.
You
Number
are a
one
nerd.
is the fact,
Nerd,
yeah,
nerd.
I'm a proud nerd. Look, I embrace that nerd. Oh, I embrace that. I embrace the word nerd. Okay. In my high school, way back when, right? They only had two languages. That's changed now, but you could only take either French or Latin, and you had to take a language. So I think probably almost 100% of us took Latin at some point. I took 4 years of Latin and 2 years of French because I was an overachieving nerd. But if you took Latin, then you know that was one of the draws, is that you got to go to this state or national Latin convention. I wasn't smart enough to go to the national one. I probably wasn't even smart enough to go to the state, but it was a social event. So we all went and we all had togas, and not just, I'm not talking about like, oh, throw a bed sheet on last minute because you don't have a Halloween party type. I mean, you don't have a Halloween outfit type toga. This is like a real toga that looked good, and everybody had different fashion styles and ways to wear their toga. I say all this because now fast forward, I might have told you this story, but I don't think I've told it.
So.
Okay.
I don't think we know this toga story.
All right. So if you knew it, you would know it because I only have a toga story. So that puts into context
I'm
that
so relieved there's just one toga story.
there's just one toga story that I can recall. So, and I had a very small class in high school. There was only about 54 of us in my graduating class. So fast forward to my senior year. So this is 1987, 1988. And Subway sandwich shop at the time used to put out these calendars. Okay. I don't know. I have no idea if they still do it, but on the calendar, it would be different things like come in on, January 3rd wearing a Mickey Mouse t-shirt, and we're going to give you a Disney surprise or something, like in a free cookie. Come in this, like everybody, like it just had sticky things. It was all just meant to drive business so that you would want to come in. I'm not sure it really worked. However, like I don't know when it actually is, so I don't want to misspeak, but at some point they had on their calendar that in honor of Julius Caesar's birthday, if you came in wearing a toga, you got a free 6-foot sub. Okay. Now, when you're in high school, so we also had something called senior lunch out. So we could legally go off campus and go eat lunch somewhere, in the surrounding area. And we were, 2 miles from the mall, etc. So anyway, we all decided, somebody found out this was on the calendar. We all get senior lunch out. There's 54 of us in my class, and it just so happens we all own togas. So we all get into our cars, we all carpool down to the nearest Subway, and 54 of us walk in wearing togas, and these people look like that they are about to like just lock the doors and kick us out. We're like, we're here for Julius Caesar's birthday, free subs. So we all ate free. We were so proud of ourselves, right, that we got a free meal. The funniest, though, is my friend Andy Woodrow and I think Jimmy Singh. I think it was Andy and Jimmy and probably somebody else. They decided that it wasn't enough just to go to a Subway to get a free 6-inch sub. They were going to spend their hour lunch going to as many Subways in the vicinity to collect 6-foot subs. Yeah.
Oh my God. How many did they get?
I don't know, like half a dozen or more. They were just driving around. They came back to school
That's
with
hilarious.
their bounty of subs. So I'm pretty sure after that, Subway probably not only stopped putting Julius Caesar's birthday on there with the sub offer, but probably just stopped having a calendar to begin with, or in general.
Could it possibly have been celebrating Julius Caesar's assassination and not his birthday? Just saying, not that because you assassinated the Subway, but no, because his birthday's actually in July. I just looked it up. But his death was, when Julius Caesar died. There's a whole Shakespeare play.
Yeah, called Julius Caesar.
No, maybe that's Macbeth, but it's coincidental. The Ides of March.
Oh, right.
March 15th. I bet it was the Ides of March. That's when, because his birthday's July 12th.
Oh, so wait, the Ides of March is when he was killed?
Mm-hmm.
But isn't that weird that they would hand out a free sub to celebrate somebody's death? That seems morbid.
I think they're just celebrating Julius Caesar. I'm just saying.
Either way, I got a free sub.
So by the time I got to Indian Springs, there were a lot more languages to choose from, and I chose French. And in 8th grade, I basically failed French. I was not paying attention, and no one realized it. And this is how people end up illiterate and no one knows. They just they just passed me. I couldn't even conjugate to be, and they didn't figure it out until 9th grade that I had no idea what was going on. So they put me back in French 1. And I actually ended up having this really amazing French teacher, Monsieur Etker. And
what did you just say?
Monsieur Etker.
Okay.
Mr. Etker. I think I can spell his name in my head. And he spoke French with like a Creole accent. And he told us that. And he started talking about all the different French accents that you can have, but he had such a good rapport with us, right? And I really liked him. He was super nice. He was cool. I learned a lot from him. I ended up, fast forward, and I switched schools, but I ended up being in advanced French. I was in the French Honor Society. So I ended up turning out okay, which is incredible because there was an incident in 9th grade with Monsieur Ecker where
you got to stop saying that. It's
okay.
You're so it's so offending, and I don't even have a good command of the French language or the accent, but it is offensive to anybody who does. I'm quite sure.
I'm not good at doing. I feel like I'm playing a character when I try and do a French accent.
Yeah.
So there's this other girl who was in my class, and she was a year older than me, and I think we've established that I would do and say things to get people to laugh. And especially someone who was a year older than me. So she turned to me and told me how to say, and you're going to have to bleep this. She told me how to say, go yourself in French. So she goes, I dare you to say that to Mr. Ecker. So I raised my hand and he said, oui, Amanda. And I said it in French. Okay. It was French and French. And then immediately I had regret. And I go, oh, and he goes, oh. So I go, I'm just joking. So then he taught me how to say in French, I'm just joking, which is je me blague. And then the entire class wanted to know what I had said. And he didn't tell them. He just said, nope, not going to tell you, but I'll tell you how to say I'm just joking. And he just went on with class. I could have gotten into so much trouble, and I didn't. I feel like he realized that I was just a good kid who had done a bad thing.
Wait, how did you say I'm sorry?
No, I'm just joking.
Oh, I'm just joking.
Je me blague. Je suis désolé is I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I knew that part. Je me blague sounds like I run a blog.
Right. Je me blague.
That's my blog. That's what it means now.
Yes, that's what it. So I'm dying to find Mr. Ecker and find out if
he wasn't there when I was there, so I have no idea who you're talking about. So I don't know if he's still around. He started
when I was in 9th grade.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's got such a unique spelling of his name. And
Jonathan Horn, he was a new teacher when I was there, and he was so young back then. Now he's probably my age. He's got to be older because he was a teacher, but he seemed so young. So we refused to call him Mr. Horn because we were, if we were 18 and he was 23, it just felt silly. So we would all call him Jonathan. And then he was like, it's Mr. Horn, Monsieur Horn. And I don't even think he made us say Monsieur. And so I'd say, all right, I'll compromise. I'll call you Hornathan. So even to this day, he's like, you're the only person who calls me Hornathan. I'm like, Hornathan. Yeah. The combination of his first last name.
Oh, there's an author named Paul Etker, and I wonder if that's him because he wrote a book about being an au pair in France. And there's maybe Etker is like a French name. I don't know.
Is it like Smith in France? Like maybe that's like a popular thing.
I don't know. We'll have to do research about that later. No, I don't think anyone cares about my French teacher. Me telling him.
Well, and I took the 4 years of Latin and the 2 years of French, and then I had to take a language at Brandeis, so I did take the French, but I was really never comfortable embracing it fully because I thought, to this conversation, that when I spoke, I sounded ridiculous, and not just because of my Southern accent. I know plenty of people who have grown up in all different parts of the world and can really perfect an accent from a different part of the world, but I just could never perfect the French accent. But what I was good at is when I worked for the Japanese consulate, which was my first job out of graduate school, I was really determined to learn Japanese, through my job. I didn't have to speak Japanese for my job, obviously, because I didn't know any Japanese, but I was only one of about 5 non-Japanese nationals or Japanese speakers in the whole consulate out of probably 60 people. And even like the Americans who were non-Japanese, some of them were fluent in Japanese. I just wasn't. So my friend Ayumi, one of my best friend, who I think we talked about that, I tracked down at the beginning of Corona, but now I have to retrack her down and see if we can Zoom because I miss her. She lives in Japan now, but she taught me 10 words a week, and she would write it out phonetically so that I knew how to say all the things that everybody else was saying, which is like, "Otsukaresama deshita," which is what you say when you are leaving work.
Yes.
And I said, I would say these things, and then of course later on say, "I'm sorry, what did I just learn to say?" And she's like, I said, "Am I saying bye, have a good day, I'm leaving?" She goes, "No, technically you're saying, I'm really sorry, I'm leaving work before you." I'm like, "But I'm not." I don't think that's probably wrong for me to say it because I'm not sorry. She's like, "Well, it's a polite thing to say." But my great story about the phrase she taught me, right?
Oh, stop making fun of me.
Yes, because I was learning so much Japanese, and one of the older consuls there apparently had been making fun of my Japanese, even though I was told I had a very authentic Osakan accent, for whatever that's worth. And so Ayumi said, "Suzuki-san is making fun of you, so I'm going to teach you how to say, 'Please stop making fun of me.'" And I was like, okay, because that was an unusual phrase. And sure enough, by the end of the day, I said, "Otsukaresama deshita," which I really didn't mean because I wasn't sorry. I was leaving before everybody, but everybody in the office responds, right? It was the original version of Welcome to Moe's, right? Where everybody goes, "Welcome to Moe's," right? Everybody goes, "Otsukaresama deshita." Then everybody at their desk kind of yells back, "Otsukaresama deshita." And I went, "Sumimasen," it means like, excuse me, like, "Sumimasen, Suzuki-san." And he looked up, he goes, "Hi." And I said, "Watashi no mane shinaide kudasai." And he goes, "Oh," I go, "Bye." And I walked out, and the whole office was just burst out laughing. So that was my proudest moment. And of course, I still retain that. So that was when I was 25, 26 years old. And that phrase came in handy. I'm just going to keep talking. The addendum to that story is, I'll make this short. When I moved to Atlanta after the Japanese consulate, I ended up working for the Coca-Cola company doing international public relations during the Olympics. And my job was to take around either celebrities, media people, and then international media. And at one point I had a crew from Japan of like 25 Japanese with some hot Tokyo television station, and they were the beautiful people. I mean, they were young and just gorgeous and stylish and had cool haircuts and were dressed to the nines. And whoever knows, I don't know who they were, but you could tell that they were used to being paraded around as celebrities. So they said, "Can you get," they all spoke perfect English, of course. So the guy says, "Do you mind can you get Coca-Colas for all of us?" And there were 25 of them. And I said, "Actually, I know I work for the Coca-Cola company, but we have a policy that we can't give out free product to the media or anyone because that's really our business. We're selling the sugar water, right? We're selling Coke, so we can't just hand it out." He says, "Well, we just want a Coke, but you do work here." I said, "I do work here. So you have access to Coke." "I do. So you can't get us free Coke." I go, "I can't." Because
that's crazy that you can't give them free Coca-Cola.
Whatever it was, they figured out. I think they must have done the math that if they have X number of journalists coming from all over the world for 3 or 4 weeks, right?
Right.
So right. And if we give free product to every journalist who showed up, which was thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe. It doesn't make sense financially, and they have to look at the bottom line, especially during this time. So I had been through that shtick enough times to know that it sounded ridiculous. I am the PR person. I am taking them around. I should that should be like a no-brainer. I should automatically give them Coke. And so I said, and he's like, we're going back and forth, and I'm being very polite. I'm like, "I know." I said, I know how ridiculous it sounds. I'm so sorry. There's nothing I can do. So the others who didn't speak as good English as the head guy, I assume were saying, what's going on? So I hear him going, da 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 da, Coca-Cola, da 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 da, and I have no idea what he's saying. But I know the conversation must have been to the extent of, she works for Coke but can't get us any product. Yeah, and this ridiculous. And they're like, what? And they're going back and forth. So finally I said, sumimasen, watashi no mane shinai de kudasai. And they freaked out. So of course, I mean, what like white American, girl is going to know, will you please stop making fun of me in Japanese, that one phrase. But I threw it out there as if I always spoke Japanese and that I understood every word they said. Their faces were like in total shock, but then they loved me the rest of the day. So they didn't care about the free Coke. They were like, oh my gosh. But the rest of the day, they were like, wouldn't say anything in front of me because they thought I understood everything they said. I'm like, yep, you better stick to English because I am fluent in 17 words in Japanese. So.
And I know nursery rhymes, so just hold on.
And I know nursery rhymes, so don't even think you're going to get away with that little elephant song.
Well, so Aaron's been taking Oscar and Ruby, mainly Oscar, on these hikes up Stone Mountain. And he took Ruby and early in the morning with her friend, and in order to motivate her to get up to the top of Stone Mountain, which is about a 2-mile hike up, it's like Masada, he's like, there's a world of Coke on top of Stone Mountain, right?
That is
which is
so
like,
mean.
It's so mean. And then he got up
because
there. Because
let's be clear, there is not a world of Coke on top of Stone Mountain. So
let's be clear, there actually is a world of Coke on top of Stone Mountain.
There is?
Yes, and he didn't know until he got up there, and they had a world of Coke exhibit.
Wait. So he was pretending there was?
Yes. Yeah.
Wait, I even believe that. Like, oh my gosh, there really is a world of Coke?
Yes. But
Okay.
then it was closed because of the pandemic. There was like the tasting room.
Oh no.
And so he got up there and he's like, oh. So that was,
So he got busted because he thought he was lying, but actually he was telling the truth, but it didn't work to his advantage anyway because it was closed.
Right.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's funny.
Isn't that funny? I mean, it's like the most insane thing. And there's no way of really getting up there without a cable car.
Yeah.
Which, again, it's like Masada. Like, you don't just put a world of Coke on top of a mountain. I don't know how they got all that stuff up there.
Yeah. They had Coke Sherpas going up and down the mountain.
Right.
With their little Coke backpacks and yeah.
It was polar bears, actually.
So in other news, I have a new Netflix secret binge. Well, not so secret binge, but I'm not sure it was worth it.
Okay. What is it?
It's called Indian Matchmaking.
Oh!
Have you seen that?
My friends were just talking about this on a text message.
Yeah. I feel like Netflix has become like very much like the algorithms that happen on Facebook where they push certain things just to make them more popular. Like you don't really like them, but you feel like you should because it always ends up in the top 10 lists. Like I think it was just kept popping up as like a show you might like. And it's not like the old, what is it? What would they call it? That recorded our shows and it would give you
TiVo.
TiVo, right. It's not like the old TiVo that really did use whatever you watched as sort of a basis for recommending other shows. I think Netflix just says, you may like this because a million other people like it. So I finally took the bait and my friend Susan was watching it anyway, so I figured we'd have something to talk about. I liked it at first. And
Is
then
it just matchmaking?
it is, but it's like the matchmaker it's like the most popular matchmaker in Mumbai, and she does matchmaking not only in India, but in the States, and I'm sure all over the world. So at first it gets you into like these 3 or 4 different characters, and you start following them, then all of a sudden, like, I don't know what happened to them, and it goes to these different other characters, and then it just keeps character hopping. It even ends on a character who wants to be matchmade, and then it just ended. There's no closure. It was the weirdest thing.
Wait, it didn't show them being introduced to each other?
Well, no, it showed them a couple of them going on dates and one who actually got engaged. But spoiler alert, it's not like we're used to, like American reality TV, where it's like, and I'm sure this is American reality TV. They just use it, based in India. But it just kept going storyline to storyline. So my favorite part of it were 2 things. Number one, the beginning of the shows was very much like When Harry Met Sally. So you remember the parts where they would show the two people who talked
Oh,
about how they met?
The old people. Yeah,
The
that was
old
so
people.
cute.
So it
That was
had
adorable.
seasoned Indian couples who would talk about whether they were a love match or a matchmaker, match them, and an arranged match, I think, was the alternative,
And then
just
they
how
eventually
they met.
fell in love.
Yeah, and they would tell all these stories. So that
then
was
we
really
fell
cute.
in love.
And then we fell in love. I had no idea. He lived on the 3rd floor. I lived on the 6th. There's that great scene in Harry Met Sally. Anyway, so, and the other part that first I was very judgy about, and then I'm thinking, that's not a bad idea, was the one storyline with this boy who's 25, so he's well past his prime. I don't know what he's thinking, that he's not married yet. And his mother was having high blood pressure trying to marry him off. And basically, he and the mother agreed that she knows best for him, and he's very close with her, so she was just going to pick whoever he married. And I'm like, what?
Oh,
That is
gosh.
weird. Then I'm like, but actually, I would not mind that authority with my boys. I mean, on one level. I'm kind of
No.
joking, but not really.
Ew.
I would like, not to pick out who they marry, but I would like a final approval.
Ew, God, you're going to be the worst mother-in-law. Oh my God, there's so many signs. So many signs. Why are you? No.
I'm
What?
not going to be the worst mother-in-law. I just think,
You're just going to scare the wrong ones away. I think naturally.
there you go. That's a
You'll
good thing
scare them
then.
away.
I will scare the wrong ones away. Yeah, I think that's every mother's intent, whether you have a boy or a girl. Just scare the wrong ones away.
Well, I have already started, I think we've all started indoctrinating our children since birth that whoever they marry has to come home for Thanksgiving.
Of course.
Right? So we have this big family reunion, which has gotten smaller and smaller over the years, every year during Thanksgiving. But I told my husband when we got married, Thanksgiving is always in Birmingham or Montgomery, as it was. We'll just say Alabama, and that they could have all the other holidays. Our brother was smart enough to marry a Canadian. So he
Right.
didn't
And they don't even
to-
have the traditional Thanksgiving, so.
Right? So I'm just going to try and get my kids to marry Canadians.
Or
'Cause then-
orphans.
Oh, God, that's awful.
I mean, I'm just
What?
keeping
You don't
it real.
want to. You don't want to compete with the other mother-in-law. That's what it is.
Well, that's not true. So here's the thing though. It's not even so much as approving of who they marry. You really do marry the family. So, I mean, we joke, like I have friends who joke, like, wouldn't it be great if our kids got married, then we'd be in-laws. But, your in-laws, I mean, sometimes you want to be around them and sometimes you don't. And then, I think there's just like a list I'd like for them to double check with before they, seal the deal. But you're right. Okay. The reality is I don't need to pick who my kid marries, but hopefully I will scare off the wrong ones.
I would like to say you missed an opportunity during last year at Arthur's orientation freshman year when Alan was sitting next to Steve Carell. That would have been amazing. He's got a daughter the same age and was in the same major at one point
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Arthur. And you could have made a shidduch.
I know.
And
Steve
you didn't.
Carell, yeah, he could be my machatunum. But
That
no,
would have
but
been a
it's all
fun
Alan's fault.
wedding.
He didn't introduce me. Yeah, Alan talked to him for an hour and never introduced me. Don't even
Good
get me
job,
started on that.
Alan.
Good
You
job,
ruined
Alan.
her life.
Right. Seriously. I mean, seriously. We could be having Passover Seder and other holidays.
Well, it's like too much pressure to think of trying to be the house that all the in-laws want to come to. I'm just trying to be the house that all the teenagers want to come to, and of course we're having to social distance right now, but I think it's all about food, right? And we have a trampoline, which is kind of, oh, there's a squirrel in the trampoline right now. That is a fat squirrel. That is the biggest squirrel I have ever seen in my life.
I would love it if another squirrel right now just leaped from a tree to double bounce it, right?
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. That would be the best YouTube video ever.
But you have that house that everyone wants to go to, and you just have to make sure you have that house that your in-laws want to go to. I don't think there's an amount of video games that'll encourage your daughter-in-laws to want to be around you. If I would concentrate on the pantry and the snacking.
Well, and don't think I haven't thought about this. Is also the idea of I always think we have 2 more years before we're literally empty nesters, or technically empty nesters. And I'm like, let's just sell the house. Then I think, no, but what about the grandkids? Where are they going to come? I want to have a house where all the grandkids can come, God willing, if I have grandkids. But I just have to take it one step at a time. Yes, we created the perfect teen basement and teen hangout. But now you have to think farther future, right?
Grandchildren, in-laws and grandchildren. Well, I have to say,
grandchildren.
I know I'm like, I have already started planning for grandchildren. I started when I started putting their toys away, right? I'm like, am I going to give this away, or does it go into a bin for the grandchildren?
Yeah.
And when you become a grandmother, you also become a New York grandmother. I've got all the Melissa and Doug, all the wooden toys, all the Thomas the Tank Engine stuff, all the costumes I've kept. I'm like, which really we got half those costumes.
I was going to say, you have all of our costumes, and I have probably $10,000 worth of those wooden trains, right? The trains and the tracks in this giant bin. And our neighbor has a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I must have seen them, we social distance with our neighbors at the very beginning of all this, like back in March. And I said to the little girl, her name's Regan, I said, do you like trains? And she said, yes, because she really was very shy around me at first. So I'm trying anything. Of course, I said, well, when, we're allowed to, I want you to come over and come play with the trains. Now I saw her dad. He's like, she hasn't stopped talking about the trains. She is so excited. All she wants to do is come to your house and play with trains. So I got to start prepping, putting those train tracks together.
But you don't give them away. You got to save them for the grandchildren.
Save it for the
years.
grandkids. Yep.
Well, I hope you're prepping to share us with your friends by writing a Facebook post or a text to your friends. Go do it right now. We need more love. We need more love, because one day our children will leave us, and we have to look back at our downloads on our podcast to be like, see, other people do love us.
Thanks again for listening to Sis and Tell. As always, this has been Amanda and Alison with a whole lot of talk about a whole lot of nothing. We'll catch you next time.